Welcome, everybody. This is Lotus Petal Studios podcast series. And as you all know, I'm the flower woman, and I've got another special guest on. And I'll let our special guest introduce herself.
Hi, this is Alexis Iacono.
And and tell me, what do you do for a living, Alexis?
Oh, well, that's a loaded question. I like to say I'm jack of all trades, master of all, but that's a bit delusional. um,
Hey,
um,
I wish I
I
can give
am
myself that title.
I am a video game voiceover actor, film producer, and film actress, and theater. It's been a while, but also a theater actress. That's how I started.
That's so cool. Yeah, and tell me, like I saw your reel, and I noticed that you knew a couple of famous actors, like Faye Ray, if I'm correct.
Well, actually, I not only knew Faye, but I portrayed her life story on stage as a young girl, and I knew her personally up until her death. And I'm sort of dating myself, but it's back in the day before emails. We used to exchange letters, so I have a hat filled of letters of Faye, and we were very close. We were always in touch, and the play that I was in was called The Meadow Lark, and it was her life story as a young girl growing up. And cut 2 years later, I became friends with Disney animator and writer Frank Dietz, and he
Wow.
was putting together a documentary about King Kong. And I was invited by David Scow, who was the writer of The Crow. At the time, he was doing a book signing of Outer Limits, and he said, go to this gathering. I was like, I don't want to say I was new to LA because I once again in the industry my whole life. I was bi-coastal, flying back and forth like a lunatic. But I basically moved 8 years ago. So it was the beginning of when I moved. And he said, come to the signing and, just hang out. And I did. And I walked into this place called Creature Features, and there was Fay Ray memorabilia everywhere, and it just like everything just hit me in the face, like my
Yeah.
past and everything. And Fay already passed away, and I was just mumbling out loud to a bunch of people because David's like, go to that crowd over there. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I just mumbled out loud. I'm like, wow, there's Faye Ray memorabilia everywhere. And I portrayed her life story as a young, and I just sort of rambled. And this guy who's Frank Dietz came right up to me and he's like, I'm sorry, can you repeat that story? And I was like, yeah, I knew Faye. And he's like, I'm doing this documentary called Long Live the King. And I have Peter Jackson, the writer and director of Lord of the Rings, and the director of Gremlins, and all these guys. I have a bunch of guys in my doc, but I don't have that story, and it's related to King Kong. Would you want to talk about Faye? So if people are interested, I'm in the documentary called Long Live the King, and I discuss my experience with
Wow.
Faye, and it's on Amazon Prime right now.
That is so cool. I mean,
Thank you.
for so many years, I really wanted to visit LA. It's just from the state that it's in that I've heard,
Mm.
it doesn't sound too appealing right now. But I
Well,
mean, still,
yeah.
that sounds just awesome.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. No, it was I will it's a staple, and it's a tattoo in my heart that I'll never forget. It was a wonderful time in my life.
Yeah, it sounds it. And tell me, like, would you say that that Faye Ray, did she like inspire you to become an actor, or did she like teach you anything special? I mean,
No, it's very interesting. I come across this question often, and I feel guilty, and I say that often as well. I feel guilty. I wish I had some extremely wise words that she said, but it was the weirdest. It was not the weirdest friendship, but it was sort of like she treated me like an adult, and we were in a very professional settings. I mean, I worked with giants in the industry on stage, and she just treated me as an equal. And she just said, just live your life and just don't expect anything and expect everything. Just let it come to you, because when it hits. And I've had some successes, and so forth, and I do know that feeling. It happens fast. It really
mm,
does. Like, it's like 1 second you're sort of sweeping the floor and down and out, and all of a sudden it's like, wait, I'm at what studio right now?
Whoa.
So that's the industry. It's a very, you need to have a tough skin because it doesn't last.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. I mean, I've heard a lot about like being in Hollywood and everything.
Hmm.
Myself, the most I've ever done with acting was being a film extra, which I know isn't much, but those were some of the absolute coolest moments because I was living in London at the time and I was going a lot to Pinewood Studios.
Oh, London. Where did you live in London?
It was around in the Brixton area.
Okay, I have I that's my godparents had a beautiful place in Rye.
Mm, nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I miss London. So where's your accent, Lotus lady?
Um, thank you. Maybe that should be a new name, Lotus Lady. Well, no, I'm to explain. Like, I'm a dual citizen, so I'm half American, half British.
That's
Um,
amazing.
I moved to the U.S. when I was like 1 years old, and I was going to school in America from 1 years old to about 14, and then I went to a boarding school in England between the ages
Yeah.
of like 15 to 18, something like that, if I'm remembering correctly. Can't believe it. I'm already forgetting. And I also went to college, and after college, like I did a
Yeah.
lot of film extra work, and it was so cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know how many, of your fans out there know what you look like, but you're stunning. You should
Thank you.
absolutely go for it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean
100%.
the ones who've probably seen the videos with my face, I kind of just go back and forth between like having my face on camera and just doing the voice. I mean, right here I'm just doing voice, as you know.
Right, 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 right.
Yeah, thanks. But anyway, let's move on now. This is going to be about the video games. You're into
Ooh.
video games.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
you had a big announcement, I believe, because I saw it on your Instagram story. You were
I
in
did. I do. I do.
Fallout 4, was it?
I'm in the new installment of Fallout 76, Steel Dawn.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was very cool. I usually I and this is what I do on the reg. I with my iPhone, I record my agent, especially with lockdown. I record from my phone and I submit. And I got a call from actually an email from my agent Marnie at Imperium 7. Shout out. And she was like, listen, I pitched your name, and you're in. You're like, I don't think I auditioned, or maybe I did, and she just, I don't know how it was done this time around. It was sort of different. And she just pitched my name, and she was like, you got the video game. And I said, what video game? And for people that don't know, we don't know, like, there's what I call the three mafias. It's the Italian mafia, the gay mafia, and the video game mafia. I know every single one of those mafias personally, and I never ever want to fuck with the video game mafia
Oh,
because
really?
they are so, and I understand it. So it's not coming from a douchey place or knocking them, but they're so nerdy, and they're so protective of their content, and rightfully so. If you
Oh,
leak
yeah.
it, if I said even like even an inkling of the video game, I'm excommunicated from the industry, from that world completely. And it's not I'm not
Crazy.
exaggerating. I'm not being drama about it. I've seen it. I've heard stories about it, and it's devastating.
I
So
I can imagine as
I
well.
didn't know what game I was in until literally a week before, when I signed the contracts. And I was supposed to be in LA, but I had to fly back to New York in September. And I was freaking out because my agent's like, where are you? And I said, I can't. And that's another thing in the industry, and people will know this. Every time, my whole life, I've been in the industry my whole life, Helen.
Mm-hmm.
Every
Yeah.
time I book a trip, I get the part. Every time I go on vacation, I have to fly back early. There's never
Oh
been
my
a time
goodness.
that I have fully enjoyed a vacation. I've literally
Wow.
always, my whole life, had to
Of
book and come back
course.
early. Um, so in this situation with the pandemic, I was back in New York, and I said, please don't tell them I'm in New York yet. I don't want to lose the part. The producers of Fallout 76 were so bomb ass amazing. They wound up booking me a recording studio in New York.
That is amazing. That's just awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not like huge into video games, although I seriously like respect the video game industry. Whenever I do play video games, they are just
Mhm.
so awesome. And I haven't ever played Fallout, I admit, and I know probably people be like, oh, what? How could you? But hey, there were many years when I didn't really have much time because of course I was in college for like 4 years.
Sure,
However,
sure.
I'm just gonna say this. That is seriously awesome that you get to be in such a huge video game. I mean, this is like
Yeah.
Fallout we're talking about here.
Yeah, and I mean, we can go on and talk about video games, but I thought when I booked World of Warcraft, it was the biggest thing. And then when I got this call, I was like, holy shit, like I love this. And when people don't know, I mean, now they're knowing now. But that was my little secret. Like no one knew. Even growing up, I was a gamer. Like, I mean, I'm a gamer and I have an Xbox. It's old school, but I'm a first person shooter. And my majority of, I didn't fall into voiceover world until I became an adult. It wasn't even believe it or not, a question. I just loved playing games and getting Game Informer magazine and reading it. Like that was my chill time. And I can't believe now, it's funny how life is. You just don't know. Now I'm in them.
Yeah, well, life always takes the most unexpected twists and turns.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
so I gotta ask, what are your favorite video games, would you say?
Ooh, I just yesterday, well, even though I did start Fallout, the Steel Dawn that I'm in, which is it's a great visual, but it's a great game. I just put in Portal 2 for the umpteenth time. I'm like I said, first person shooter. So it's,
Mm,
I love Portal and Orange Box and Half-Life, Deus Ex, which is a phenomenal game. If you like to crack codes and be a hacker and love that Asian, that underworld of punk rock, and it's just this
mm,
really cool vibe of a video game that I'm in love with. Besides, the music score is just fantastic.
mm,
um I can go on. I mean, BioShock. I love BioShock. I love Crisis 2. I love Far Cry and all the CODs, all of the Call of Duty. So anything
mm.
first person, I'm pretty Battlefield. I just purchased Battlefield. So I can go
Cool.
on and talk
It
about, my
sounds like
favorite
it. Wow.
characters and
Hey, how about
so
Halo? I've always been like the biggest Halo fan.
okay, this is where people are going to throw crow at me. I have to, I didn't get into it.
Uh,
Maybe this time around, I don't know why. I thought it was a slow start for me. And I don't know,
you.
maybe by going from Half-Life to that, it's sort of maybe mind fucked me a little bit. Everyone keeps saying, go back to it, try it again. So I'm going to try it again.
Oh,
I don't
I'm
want to,
gonna
I don't
join
want to
that
say no.
crowd.
Yeah,
Just try
yeah,
it
yeah.
again because I love Halo just because of its story, the characters. You'll just love the characters, especially Sergeant Johnson. You just you're just gonna love the missions. I love how they just made like the whole world feel so real, and even just in the very original, just like original Xbox like Halo game. I know like
Yeah.
all the graphics look so lame now and
Yeah.
whatnot, but it
Yeah.
just still looks so great. And I remember as a kid, I was about, I don't know when the first Halo came out, I was about 7. And of course, my brother wouldn't let me play it.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
used to just really want to play it because it looks so cool. And when I finally got to when I was about, I don't remember anymore, probably say like 12. I mean, my brother was rather protective of his games.
I don't blame him.
Yeah, can't blame him. And
Nope.
I was just like, oh boy, this whole just the science fiction side of it. That's always what I thought, and I think the plot's just
Yeah.
so original, cool. Like just aliens obsessing over some religion and whatnot. I
Right.
hope I'm not spoiling too much for you. You probably have heard like the sort of basic plot.
Sorry, I just in case people listening, I'm at a Lexus car dealership, so you might hear people behind me. So I'm so very sorry if you hear just a weird interaction in the background. It actually sounds very much like a video game. I'm sorry. What was the last? Someone was like yelling on their phone. What was the last thing you said? I apologize.
I I think it was I was just kind of gushing over the fact that in Halo they they have such a quite an original plot, like dealing with
Mhm.
aliens being obsessing
Oh yeah,
over some religion, but
sure.
actually it's like some very destructive thing. And well, of course, I wasn't sure if I was spoiling anything, but then most people kind of know the basic plot to it.
Right, right, right. Well,
Yeah,
what's very interesting about video games, and it's people that are into it will for me it's like it's sort of like they're giving us it's sort of like a private a private society. And it's basically like when you play a video game, it's like they're sort of telling you things like that is really happening in the world, and they're sort of teaching
mm,
us through the video game. Like if you play
yeah,
Deus Ex, it has to do with basically a, a pandemic that's going to happen, and this
mm,
drug, neuropazine, that if you take it, you will survive. And there's three endings to the game.
ooh,
And I purposely went through all the games and chose different endings to see the different,
mhm,
to try the different endings. And basically, it's exactly what's going on now with the pandemic. It's like I
mm,
was told, do not take that. Do not in the game. If you say yes to the drug, you're going to die. And it's
mm,
very, very similar to what's going on in Deus Ex is over maybe 10 years old. And I find it
wow,
interesting with a lot of these video games. If you play it, if you're really into it, if for some reason I find it to be a private tutorial of like really how you should, God forbid, in a situation, go through life. And I
mm,
and I really stand by that. I'm not a conspiracy theory person, but
yeah,
especially with Deus Ex, I'm like, this is very this is very close to home.
yeah. Well, that's what I'm
Yeah.
starting to notice actually with a lot of not just in video games, but with a lot of movies and TV shows from the past. It's almost as if they were setting down a blueprint or warning
Yes.
for us for the
Thank you.
future. Because
Thank you. You worded it much
yeah,
better than I. That's
because
exactly they're mapping. With video games, it's exactly right. Perfect. It's a blueprint. Yes.
yeah, because I was thinking, I know this is obviously not a video game, although video games have been made from this, but The Simpsons, especially when The Simpsons was still good, they
Yeah.
had almost all these freaky predictions that are
Yeah.
happening right now.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
It's absolutely
Yep.
crazy, and it's not just some of the
Well,
obvious ones too.
hmm well, also, if you watch the show on Sci-Fi, 12 Monkeys, it's you got to watch the show, and the movie
Oh
is
yeah,
very good, but the TV show, uh, it's exactly it's exactly what's going on now. And I am acquaintances with one of the writers on the show. I know his
mhm,
wife very well. She's in the horror industry, and
that's cool.
he wrote the show. And it is so trippy. If you put on 12 Monkeys, the TV show on Sci-Fi Channel, you're going to be like, what the fuck? And
Actually,
it was right before the pandemic, and it's exactly what the storyline is about. It's about the pandemic that broke out.
wow. Actually, I
Yep.
think I've seen a bit of the TV show 12 Monkeys. I think
Yeah.
I know it was something to do with the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
and there were all these people that were going back in time to try and stop it.
Mm-hmm.
Was that it?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I've seen a
Yep.
bit of it. I didn't watch it till the ending,
Yep.
but it was like,
Yep.
whoa. That
Yeah.
when
But no,
this
you're absolutely right. It's a blueprint, 100%.
yeah, do you think like these people I don't know if you're religious or spiritual in any way, but do you think some of these like writers or creators like ever get, I don't know, messages from angels or like get are like mediums or something?
Well, it's if I mean you tapped into something that I'm very familiar with. Yes, I do believe that. Not to sound weird, but it is what it is, and people either
Mhm.
can understand it or not, or they're afraid of it. um
Yeah.
I get that. I
I
get
mean, I get it
messages.
too.
Yep. And I
And
believe that yes, I believe the writers, I believe people have these epiphanies and they write things down. And yes, absolutely messages. I completely believe that.
or do you think it could even just be not really a spiritual thing, but sometimes people can look at it. Sometimes they have inside knowledge that we might not always have
Oh,
from
sure.
like contacts, or maybe they just see the trends that are going on in society and therefore predict it quite accurately.
Oh, sure. Or even even they might have the inside scoop and, have, friends that are in that world and
Mm.
and right around that without, obviously getting in trouble. But yeah, I think it's a mixture of a million things.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I know a lot of people. I know a lot of, I know a lot of things about, that are secretive and that I keep it in the vault. And I also have
Mm.
messages coming to me and also
Mm.
life experience and traveling and meeting new people. And you mix
Mm.
all that together and you can put a show on. I mean, you lived in London. I'm sure
Mm.
you can put your own show of your own with your own epiphanies and your
Oh
life
yeah.
experiences.
I mean,
Everyone, yeah,
probably I would, if I was to write like a story based on my experience in London, it would actually end up being very controversial, admittedly, because
sure,
as you know right now, and as most people know, they like to try and build like paint London as this multicultural paradise
yeah,
and like always saying, um, diversity is our strength and all of that. And actually there's a lot of stuff that isn't actually so great there.
hmm
There's
hmm
like a lot of stuff that they won't ever talk about to you that
of,
I've come across.
of course not, because you have to remember, and I'm American, and I went to London several times, and I loved it. And yes, there is a romanticism. I mean, I guess in every
Mm,
country where you go, but if you're when people when you think London, you think of several things. You think of all the British movies. You think
mm.
of castles. You think of queens and kings, and
Oh, of course.
even Jack the Ripper is romanticized, and Sherlock Holmes and that whole era,
Those
even
are
though
all great too.
I know, and even though like Sherlock Holmes, that era, it was the dirtiest time. Charles Dickens, even I think it was Charles Dickens that went to New York by ship, and he thought it was going to be greater in New York in America, and he realized it was the same as London. He went right back. He said it was just as
Mm.
terrible in New York than it was in London. But of course you think of Oliver. I played Artful Dodger when I was in high school. I played a boy and people thought I was a boy. No one knew I was a girl. And I wasn't really big on theater. I mean, even though I'm a theater actor growing up in school, I really didn't think about it, and until Oliver, there were auditions for Oliver. Oh my God. And of course you think, Oliver, London, that whole entire thing you romanticize.
Mm.
And it was a great experience. And I gotta tell you, I was a good Dodger.
I
I
bet.
was a
And
I was a
but I
good
mean,
artful Dodger. But you
but then
think of
in a
Peter
way,
Pan.
actually, these
Yeah.
stories also do show the dark side of all those things. It's just it's never the same until you actually see it for yourself.
Sure. And it's sort of like Disney. I mean, if you watch a Disney cartoon as an adult, those there's some dark shit in those cartoons.
Oh, there is. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's dark shit. I mean, Lion King, his own brother killing him. Like what? Like what?
What?
And
Wait,
of course, you think of your then boyfriend cuddling with him and watching Lion King, and it's so romantic. And then you see it single, and you're like, Jesus, what the hell?
oh my goodness. Yeah, I know. That's how you think. And what else? Because I was trying to think of what else is there. Well, when you think about it, like with Harry Potter, for example, I was a
Yep.
massive Harry Potter fan growing up,
Yep.
and there's like actually so much death in it, and
hmm
so
hmm
much like dark stuff. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing actually, because I feel that too many kids cartoons are a bit too sanitized now. It's like,
Sure.
oh, we don't want to scare the kids too much. When all throughout history, there's been such dark stuff
hmm
in kids' stories. And I think
hmm
in a way it kind of helps prepare them for the real world. Like they see people
Absolutely.
do die, see there are just awful, awful people out there.
Right. And I think, like, not to get political or anything, because that's not what we want to veer
Yeah.
into, but like that's the problem that we're facing today, is that the cancel culture, and like not showing everything, and being selective, and it's the worst thing ever for this generation,
Mm,
because
it really
i
is.
i grew up I grew up with Bugs Bunny and Elmer Fudd shooting Bugs Bunny in the face, and that didn't make me want to get a shotgun and shoot people in the face. It's like,
I know.
back then those cartoons, I think, were worse then than anything. I mean, the video games are very you know that can steer people a certain direction, but it really, at the end of the day, it has to do with your upbringing. It has to do with your mental health.
Yeah. Yeah,
It
actually, I
has to do.
wanted to ask on that. Sorry to interrupt. I
No.
was thinking about how, excuse me there. I was thinking about how there's been this debate for ages where they're like, oh, do video games cause people to go on mass shootings?
Mm.
And what's your take on it? What do you think is the difference between like seeing Elmer Fudd shooting Bugs Bunny in the face and probably like GTA, Grand Theft Auto?
It's this is such a touchy subject because it's an assumption on my end. I don't have the right to explain what go through people's minds.
Hmm.
When I play a video game, I can give myself my own experience. When I play a video game, I zone out. I focus, and I'm there
Oh,
shooting a
same.
target. I'm shooting a target. It's just the difference of having, I hate to say it, a mental health, a good mental health or not. If you're, I hate to say it, if you are a being bullied and you're an overweight kid and you go home and you're shooting up things, I don't know, that might inspire. I hate to say it,
Yeah, because
being in being,
I've always
yeah,
kind of leaned towards that. I'm not saying that just because you play a video game or you watch movies like The Joker, that doesn't
right.
mean you're gonna grab a gun and
But
be like,
but
oh, let me throw off to the school now.
yeah, but then you have these idiot incels nowadays that they think, oh, the Joker is just the best thing ever, and and all this bullshit. It's just people are romanticizing a little too much. Back in the day, there was this someone, I forgot what actor, but they were like, it's so sad with today's culture. Back in the day, people admired Elizabeth Taylor. They used to just go to a movie, spend 2 hours, have popcorn, be on a date, be with friends, and be like, watching this beauty queen. And now today, it's not like that. Now, after seeing Angelina Jolie in the movies, everyone's getting Botox because they all want to look like her.
Yeah,
And
actually,
that
that's another interesting topic. Why do you think it's kind of changed from being like probably back in your day even? Like, oh,
because
that's
because now everything is sexualized.
ah,
Everything is sexualized now, and it has nothing to do with boys, it has nothing to do with girls. It really has to do with the school system. It has to do with um parenting, a lack of coddling, censoring. Where I listen, my parents, I mean, I I went to the movies. I saw everything when I was young. I
mhm,
traveled. I ate at restaurants. I hung out with adults.
mhm,
I heard cursing. People were, fuck this, whatever. At a
mhm.
young age, I opened the door and saw my babysitter fucking as her boyfriend.
Oh,
I didn't become a whore. I didn't wear a short skirt and do a duck face and talk like an asshole. Like it really, it's your character. It's your choices in life and how you see things. I'm not trying to be Miss fucking perfect. I'm not. But I really do believe it has to do with character, integrity, being open-minded, listening to your own voice, and not being a follower. And that's the problem today, Helen. Everyone's a
too many
follower.
people
They
followers.
think
Yeah,
they think they think they're being leaders, but all it takes is one bully, one anger person that pushes you against the wall and yells at you and screams at you, and all of a sudden you're that puppy dog and you look up to them, whether it's a
yeah,
relationship or friendship, and then you're
yeah,
screwed, you're broken
mhm,
down. And
yeah,
people think, oh, I'm so woke. No, you're actually damaged goods. And
yeah.
those
That's
damaged goods,
accuracy.
that
Yeah,
those
totally.
damaged goods, those victims that have been that use that, look up to the Joker and look up to these asshats of the world. And now
Mhm.
everybody wants to be everybody. Nobody wants to be themselves.
Yeah, that is a big problem. I mean, there's one thing that I think, particularly in the more right wing side of the internet, they keep saying that whole message of just be yourself is the thing that's caused a problem. Actually, no, because
Mm-hmm.
makes people woke
Yeah.
is the fact that they're being themselves, is that they're becoming like everyone else. So if people
Right.
actually were truly themselves, this wouldn't be
Right.
happening.
That's right.
And so going back to one point to do with movies and how they're trying to sanitize movies so much, even including old movies.
Yeah, I know.
You look at one of my absolute favorite movies of all time, which is Gone with the Wind. They
Mm,
like they didn't they at one point pull it down from HBO and want to
Yeah.
put like a warning on it.
Yeah. And also, Bill Cosby, Mr. Rapist, bought all the
Mm.
rights to Our Gang, the Little Rascals, because he thought it was racist. So that's why the Little Rascals is not allowed on TV anymore. He bought all the rights.
Oh, I mean, that's ridiculous.
Hmm.
And the whole
Yep.
point is this: you look at a movie like Gone with the Wind, and I say it's okay to have a movie like that,
Of
not because
course.
it necessarily glorifies slavery, but because it just shows the historical reality. There was slavery,
That's right.
and
That's right. And if you see Viking movies, that slavery is just as brutal as
mm,
anything else. Every nationality has had major terrible situations happen. I mean, you
yeah,
pull through it. You either have a victimization head, or it's as simple as this: you're either a leader or a follower. And what's going on in the world today is that it's all chiefs and no Indians.
yeah, that's that's also kind of the other crazy thing about today, and that's where I think it's really affected like creativity too, because nobody wants to stand out. Because to me, the whole point in movies and being creative is just being unique. You're supposed to almost push boundaries, not necessarily sexual boundaries, but just
Hmm.
boundaries, be original, think outside the box.
Right.
But now
And
everything's just a copy of each
yeah,
other.
and like people get, today especially, they're so butt hurt, a bunch of pussies. I'm sorry, I don't mean to
Mm,
curse so much,
yeah.
but they are. Everyone thinks they're Mozart. They think they have this great idea. Guess what?
Mm,
It's all been done before. That's it. Even
I
me,
agree.
I produce amazing content. I produce serial killer content. I'm pitching to studios. I have a great producing partner.
Mm,
I'm very blessed in this industry. And guess what? I don't care how great my material it is, which it is. My stuff is great. It's been
mhm.
done before, but
Yeah.
differently. You just have to make it your own and show your passion through your
Actually,
work,
that's
and
one
that's
thing
what
what
makes it.
you said there. That's one thing that
Yep.
you said there that really gets me. It's the fact that everyone thinks that they're Mozart, everyone thinks they're Spielberg. And I
Mm-hmm.
think
Mm-hmm.
back to my college, and the number one complaint I always had was there were so many people that literally thought they were the next Scorsese,
Yeah.
when honestly their movies were just as crap as all of our ones. And yet there's such an
But
attitude of I'm special, I'm special, I'm special. And it's like,
but
sorry,
but
you're not.
yeah, but right. Yeah, it goes back to that mentality once again. Everybody wants to be Scorsese, rather
Well,
than
not
admiring
everyone
the
can.
movie and saying, rather than saying this person inspired me, okay, I'm just going to do cool shit. Everybody wants to be everybody else.
Yeah, exactly. So really the message to the kids out there is just embrace who you are. You can be inspired, but don't try to be
That's right.
that
And
person.
it may be a bit hokey, but I put this on my Instagram today. I put, and I say this because a writer friend of mine said this a while ago, and it really stood out. I mean, it really did. um we were talking about LA, and
Mhm.
we were talking about people that are successful in the industry in LA, or they go to a very dark side. And I know both sides.
Mm,
I'm familiar. I'm friends with both sides. I've dated both sides of that. People
mm,
very successful, and unfortunately, people that sort of fall through those cracks. But he said Los Angeles makes you a stronger version of yourself,
mm,
meaning what you were before you came to LA, it's only going to make a stronger version of you. And it
mm.
can go both ways. And I thought that was a fascinating saying, because if you were a fuck up in your hometown, you're going to be a bigger fuck up in LA,
I can imagine, yeah.
and vice versa. If you're on a straight path where you were in your town, and growing up, that's what's going to happen with LA. And it
Mhm,
really is the path that you choose. And it really, with what happened this year with the pandemic, it really set the tone of
mm.
who you're going to be for the rest of your life.
Yeah, true.
And so this is going to be very interesting with all those people that want to be someone's. This was the time where they had to really reflect. And that's why a
Mm,
lot of people panicked. It goes to show how many people are so insecure with their lives and so scared. and so panicky. You knew exactly who was comfortable in their skin and who was not. I'm not saying that, go out and don't wear a mask and listen to the whatever the hell. No, I'm not saying that.
No. I mean, do what
But
makes you feel comfortable.
but I find it very interesting, especially with this incel bullshit pussy generation. This
Yeah.
was their time. COVID showed them, who are you exactly? What do you want to be when you grow up? This was the time. This is now, like, this COVID did, I think, a justice for everyone,
I think in a way
because
it
you
did.
have no choice, either to soul search or drink, smoke, and fuck it away.
Yep, exactly. I mean,
You're
I
either
really hope.
you're either that or you're that. There's no in
Yeah.
between, especially with
Well,
this.
exactly, because you see, you look at the world as it is right now, and I think that was the number one most frustrating thing that I went through in high school and college, because I've seen firsthand just how damaged my generation, the one below me, because I'm
Mm-hmm.
like on the cusp of like millennial and Gen
Mm-hmm.
Z,
Mm-hmm.
but I just see just how truly messed up my generation is.
Mm-hmm.
It's just ridiculous, and everyone's so hypersexualized. Everyone just
Mm-hmm.
thinks they have to be something, and they
Mm-hmm.
want to constantly change themselves. And that's why, and I'm going to admit this, I was pretty unpopular in both high school and in college. Or I was more like just such a divisive character in my college, because I was kind of like, listen, I'm I'm Helen. I'm Flower Woman, because Flower Woman actually comes from it was a joke between a best friend and I. Like,
But
and it's a long story where it came from, but this is
okay.
who I am, and I'm not gonna follow any crowd. I'm just gonna be me.
Right.
And just a ton of people don't like that, because as I say, it's like
Yeah.
you see in the media nothing but like hypersexualization, and
Yep.
so you get a whole generation of girls that just think
Yep.
all that matters is if they look like Miley Cyrus or Nicki Minaj,
Hey.
or they
Ooh.
dress like them.
Ooh. Ooh.
Yeah, horrible. I mean, I
My
keep saying,
my condolences.
yeah, and I remember like I was really like picked on in my high school, because all the girls were just absolute. What's the polite way of saying whore? I mean, that's the only word I can think of. Just
Whore.
a whore, like a slut. There's like massive sluts,
Mm-hmm.
and they were
I
like
call
always
them.
begging for male attention.
Yeah. And it's always been around, but since social media, it's
Social media made
just
it worse.
and even YouTube, everyone's famous. I'm gonna put my
Oh,
audition tape on YouTube, and I'm just, gonna flip my hair and put my short skirt on, and I'm gonna do a monologue from Hamlet. Okay, you do that. I'm a singer. I'm a rapper, I'm an actor, I'm all these stupid things, and I love it. Oh, I'm terrible person. My favorite show is Ridiculousness on MTV. I love people doing dumb fucking shit because I laugh at people all day. YouTube, I go on YouTube and I'm like, oh, look at this ass hat. Look at these ass hats.
you
And
remind me of what Jeanette McCurdy, who's a former Nickelodeon star. I don't know if you know much about the Nickelodeon stars.
no, I don't.
Um, okay, I was a big Nickelodeon kid when I
Okay.
was young, and
Yeah.
and one of the former actors from there is called Jeanette McCurdy, and I think she was on iCarly. It's just slightly after my time with
Okay.
and and I and as you probably know, like Nickelodeon was for years being scrutinized for the fact that it seemed that they were a bit of a hotbed for pedophiles,
Yeah.
particularly one called Dan Schneider.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the former Nickelodeon stars, Jeanette McCurdy, she's like been the most outspoken against him.
Yeah.
But she said one thing where she's she's always about like there are too many of these kids. I'm paraphrasing here just a word, but I think this is kind of the gist of her message. It's like she wants to be
Sure.
something more than what the an average young person's doing, because everyone, they just say, oh, look at me, I'm doing a good job. Let me post a pretty picture on Instagram.
Yep. Let me do a peace sign and a duck face and pose in a recording studio because now I'm talented.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous. And I don't know
Yep.
if there's ever going to be a way we can like bring it back to being like, you're only talented when you actually have the skills. You're only talented when you can actually do it properly.
Yeah, I want to believe that with what's going on in the world, like I said, I think it's going to go both ways. I think the majority of the people are going to go back to old school, and the other half is just they're doomed.
Mm,
And I think that goes that goes with every aspect of everyone's life, in relationships, in schooling, in movie choices, going out to play versus video games for 15 million hours. I'm
mm,
listen, once again, not knocking it. I'm in the industry, so it's like, buy the video game. Like I'm in the middle. I'm sort of, buy the video game, but also have a life. um
yeah, of course, it's a
I
balance.
Yeah, and that is what is lacking. There's no more balance. there's
Yeah,
there's
that's
you're either
balance.
this or that. And I hate to say it, and that's where the country, it's, back in the day there was, rich, poor, middle class. Now we're getting to that scary point that I don't believe is going to happen. I believe, I have faith. But it's getting to that point, and everywhere it's, you're either that way or that way. You're
Mm,
either appreciative, or you're just going to play victim your whole life and whine and bitch and tell you the same story with, different people your whole life, until you try to social climb and have a pity party for yourself because you think you're the most awesome person in the planet. Meanwhile,
mm,
you're a schmuck.
mm,
You're a
yeah,
schmuck.
I mean, really, because
You're a
it's like,
schmuck. And that's the problem. You're either going to be dealing with people that are actually going to do good work, or you're going to deal with a schmuck.
yeah. Well, and here's the crazy thing. Speaking of the lack of balance, it's like, especially with women right now, and I don't know if you've experienced this, but now, at least for people more around my age range, it's either, if you had to be either the girl that like covers up every inch of her skin and doesn't show anything, or you're kind of the slut that won't hide anything.
Right.
And it's like, there is something in the middle, and I see this again within the incel
Mm-hmm.
crowd.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
Mm-hmm.
as if every girl that, like, let's say, wears a tank top or a summer dress is like
Mm-hmm.
a whore. And it's like, well, you you probably spent the majority of your time watching sexualized music videos and watching porn.
Yep. Yep.
And no
Sure.
wonder why you view women in this way.
Well, but yeah, but they're also now, but the problem is with these guys, is that they're so used to being in front of a computer that they're afraid of intimacy. Hold on. I
Mm.
I may have to go in a few minutes. I'm sorry. Hold on.
Okay.
Sorry.
Do you
Sorry,
want
one
me?
second. I'm sorry. I know we're being interviewed. Um, and that's the problem, going back to relationships. Not that I'm a guru of it. I mean,
I
I
mean,
can
I'm no
tell you.
guru with anything.
Well, I mean, I can't even. I mean, that's a whole other segment. If you want to go into that one day, I'm willing
Yeah.
to talk about my amazing blessed love life. I mean, it's like, I'm just like, really? I look up at God and I'm like, really? This is the joke. This is the comedy right here. You gave me a comedy act. It's my love life. But it's so sad because these guys today, they are so used to porn and the video games and jerking off and looking at the screen that they are absolutely afraid of intimacy. And by the way, that goes both ways, because
Yes,
now
it
there's a
does.
now the videos they show an ass cheek, they show their big titties and their horrible horse faces that they have to cover up for their tits. And do it once again, the peace sign, the duck faces. And
Mm,
they post it on OnlyFans, or they do a cute Insta story, and they see people that are liking it, and that's their intimacy. Also, that's
yeah,
their gratification. That's it for
yeah,
them. That's their Academy Award, until they realize, uh-oh, a week's gone by, no one's liking my stuff now. Now I got to show another side shot. and it goes both ways. I don't mean to knock guys. I love men, but
Oh,
really
that's fine.
I love them, and it's heartbreaking. And
Yeah,
that breaks my heart. Like I said it to a friend the other day. I said, when am I going to finally get a heartbreak? This is the heartbreak that I've been getting so far. Are like, come on, dude, I'm in your corner. What are you doing? What are you doing?
right here.
Why, it's like, what, you're men today are so amazing, and the women today can be so amazing, and they're just shitting, and they shit the bed.
That just both of the sexes have been messed up, and I still blame to this day a lot of the media.
Yep. Oh, hands down.
Media done it.
Hands
That's why, despite the fact that we're both like creators, I say that we want stuff that'll inspire people, that'll uplift people.
Yep. And there's stories, there are people like you and I, and a lot of people. I mean, I'm very happy that I have a group and a formed circle, a creative circle where that does exist. And let me tell you, that does exist. It's underground, but I found them. I find them each day, and they do exist.
That's great.
And
yeah, I started to notice it too, and it's great.
Yeah, and I truly believe 2020 set the tone of your whole life. People are going to know exactly who they are and all their choices in 2021 and on. And I do believe that in the greater good, and the ones that are followers, they weed themselves out, and they did. 2020 was the year of weeding all the toxic bullshit out.
Exactly. That's what I think. That's why we should both say thank you, 2020.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you, 2020. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. And I'm going to say to you, thank you so much, Alexis, for coming on my show. I greatly appreciate it so much.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, I believe that we've come around to the end because, of course, Zoom doesn't allow you to record past, I don't know, half an hour, and it doesn't tell you any time.
Oh, interesting.
Well, that's strange, but whatever. I believe we had like one great conversation. And I just say thank you so much for coming on.
Of course. Thank you for having me, and I hope to be on again soon, and hopefully we'll get to meet each other in person.
Yeah, hopefully we will, because we've only met on the internet, I'd say.
Yes.
Whatever, strange things happen.
Yeah, no, there are no coincidences. And thank you again. And
you're welcome.
Hit me up at any time, and Happy New Year.
Yeah, and you too. Happy New Year.
Thank you, dear.
Yeah.